Well, morning, everybody, and thank you very much for turning out on what is a sort of horrible, damp, grey, miserable morning here in Bristol in the UK. But hopefully it's a bit better wherever you are in watching this morning. So, yeah, I wanted to do this session for about the last 3 years, and I didn't have the confidence to do it because basically what this is, as I said to Beth a moment ago, it's a blog post because this issue, or for confidence or lack of confidence, is something that's plagued me for my entire life. And it is the issue that gets raised most when people get in touch with me about wanting to begin a nature journal or even wanting to start drawing. You know, I really want to do this, but I can't because, and there's always this barrier that rises up. So this isn't going to be one of those kind of like tips of, you know, fear of the white page. What I really want us to do is to look more deeply into our feelings and reactions to confidence and the lack of confidence. Some of you may be very confident people yourselves and think, well, I probably shouldn't have bothered to come to this session. But what I'm hoping is you may be somebody who's confident or somebody who isn't quite so confident, but if you are a confident person, you may be able to help someone else in ways perhaps that you haven't thought about. So this is going to be quite an introspective session, really. I'm going to chat a bit and I'm going to ask you if you would share with us at certain stages. So we'll just see how it goes. So confidence is a bit of a two-headed thing, really, like Janus, the Roman god, I suppose. You know, it's looking both ways. If we have it, it's fantastic. It brings us excitement, inspiration, and joy. And if we don't have it, it holds us back and stops us doing things that we want to do. And it's basically fear, isn't it? It's basically fear that maybe we aren't good enough. You know, it's a terrible thing to say, that we will fail, which we can't really do, but we still feel like it. And even that we are somehow perhaps less than other people, which is awful, but I think it's a basic human thing for many of us. So let's look at some of the things today that we as human beings do that create these barriers in our creative and personal journeys, and how we can help ourselves break them down. Confidence, of course, ultimately comes from within ourselves, but other people do affect us achieving it or not. So I'd like to just start by asking some of you to raise your hands if you've ever suffered with a lack of confidence that initially stopped you from beginning your journal, or perhaps the need to draw. And I don't want you to go into anything deep and personal, but if you go to the bottom of the screen, you'll see the little reaction button. And if you feel that you can raise your hand, and I'm just going to pop into my gallery view because I just come out of that, yeah, just to see. Yeah, there's a few people there raising their hands. Thank you for that. Yeah. So you've experienced that. Yeah. Oh, quite a few of you. Yeah. Thank you. That's really helpful to know. So nature journaling and confidence. There are quite a few different aspects of confidence that that relate to nature journaling. And these can start from, you know, basically not starting because you're afraid of something, but also perhaps when you've started a journal or you've started learning to draw, and then something happens in your life, maybe illness or a family issue or something else. Now, some people find that when that happens, they use their journal more. They use it to help them get through, past the difficulty, and that's a brilliant thing. Others of us may react in a different way. Instead of doing that, we tend to withdraw and not use our journals or not draw. And then it's easy to withdraw. And once you stop doing something, you lose your motivation, you lose your confidence, and then you stop doing it completely. So being in the latter camp, this is quite strongly qualified. This has recently happened to me through an issue of family illness that we had, where I struggled greatly to get back and start using my journal again, which I love doing. So it's interesting why did that happen? I don't know. I'm still working on that one. There's also the feeling of confidence of going outside and journaling. As you have heard this week, and most of us will know, going outside and journaling in the open air is just the best thing in the world, and I highly recommend it to everybody. It's fantastic. But that can be really intimidating sometimes, particularly when you're starting out and you've got all these issues and concerns about, how am I going to do it? What's going to happen? So there are very few ways that confidence affects what we do. So to start us off, I'd like to do a little exercise, which I hope you will join in. Some of you yesterday will have been at Aoka's wonderful sketchnoting presentation, where we started to look at this issue about the why. What is our why? Why do we journal? And we looked at it there in a really fun, positive way. We were thinking about all the benefits, really, of why we journal. I always start my workshops off with this question. And one thing that I say to people is, when I was thinking about my own personal why, well, why do I nature journal? And there are so many benefits. Of course, it brings me so much joy. It's a connection, all those wonderful things. But they're all actually products. What was my original why? What is the thing that made me want to keep a nature journal? And when I thought back, it has nothing to do with keeping a nature journal at all. The reason why I wanted to do it was because I always thought I couldn't. Now that might seem strange, but if you think about it, I had confidence issues. When back in the 80s, I was so inspired by the fantastic country diary of an Edwardian lady, which I'm sure you've all come across. And I just thought that was just the most wonderful thing I've ever seen. And also this book by a British artist, Janet Marsh, who wrote this beautiful, exquisite book, which I highly recommend. If you haven't seen it, you can get it. It's out of print, but it's fantastic. She wrote it about the south of England, where land is all chalk and chalk streams, an amazing landscape that I didn't know anything about. It's beautiful. And I just thought, oh, these people, it's just amazing, it's wonderful. I want to do that. I so want to do that. And I couldn't possibly do that. It's because I put up all these barriers. So what I would like you to do is maybe have a little think about your why. What was it that initially made you say, I'm going to keep a nature journal? That intrinsic thing that actually made you push to do it. So, I mean, yes, it's a lovely thing to do, and yes, all the positive things, but what was that thing? And I would like you either to, if you have your journal or a notebook, maybe write it in the back of the journal. Have a real good deep think. If anyone feels that they want to share, that's absolutely fantastic, but this is a very personal thing. So I'm just going to give you a couple of minutes to have a think about that, and I'd like you to think really hard. Okay. Okay. I see heads coming up now, so I hope that that's been enough time for you to have a think about that. So can I ask you, how did that exercise actually make you feel? Again, if you want to just make a note of that in your journal, actually how you felt being asked that question. Or if anyone wants to share it, that's absolutely fine. But again, you know, this is a very personal session. So please don't feel you have to do that. But if anybody does, I think oh, we have something. Oh, Susanna, thank you so much. Yeah, it's seeing people's work like Jack Rawls and Laura Gastiger. Ah, and you're a botanical artist, so it's a sideways step. That's fantastic. Thank you so much. Oh, and I'm sorry, Rebecca. Yeah.
No, I'd like to share about my reaction to that. That was really interesting, and it actually brought up a lot of emotion for me just having asked that question, and I didn't expect that. But it was interesting thinking about what was underneath, like, because yesterday we were talking about care and connection, and what's underneath that? And that was a really interesting and sort of moving question. And for me, I realized just now, and it's brought up emotion, that I've always felt like being a human being is quite phenomenal and scary. And scary in that, what are we doing here in these bodies? You know, it's quite amazing, but also I always felt, even from when I was a kid, that being a human is like, I'm here alone in my own body. And so nature journaling and connection with nature makes me feel less alone. It connects me in with something else, and that feels really safe, and that feels really powerful. So when I do that, and that feeling of connection, it just very safe is the main word that comes to my mind. And so that is so interesting that you asked that, and it's sort of just uncovered this thing that I hadn't really thought about. So thank you for asking that question.
Oh, thank you so much for sharing that, Bethan, because as I said, it is intensely personal, and I think it's just it's fascinating to hear our different responses when we actually, you know, take things down a little bit deeper. So thank you very much for sharing that. And oh, I see a couple. Oh, Sue, thank you so much. Oh, that was very kind of you. Sue said when she started when she was museless and not creating, and it was I met Sue, and she noticed that I was journaling, and she started, which is fantastic. And Rebecca, oh, thank you, Rebecca. It's hard for you to answer because you've done it so much for your life. That is just fantastic. I mean, what a fantastic, brilliant advertisement for nature journaling. And yeah, Becca's answer was just fantastic. And oh, and Todd, oh, that's beautiful. It gives my life meaning. I mean, this is just fantastic. I know you're a very busy lady, but yeah, this is just, it's wonderful to see those responses. Thank you very much for sharing those with you that thought you were able to share. And as I've said, there's no pressure on anybody at all, but it's nice. I think it's very inspiring for for the rest of us to hear these things. Okay, so we're going to come back to why at the end. But let's talk a little bit now about the issue around drawing and sharing, because drawing is going to come up because it's such a major part of nature journaling for the majority of people. And I'm guessing that a lot of people here are already immersed in our lovely art nature bubble that we live in. It's quite a closed bubble because we're quite a niche community. And when people start and join this community, I think we are often looking for support and also for feedback from other people. Now, I know we're all supposed to be totally self-resilient and just do whatever we want and get out there and go for it. I know we are. But personally, I found in my own journey that's actually quite hard for me. And I'm not talking here about, you know, wanting to get 5,000 Instagram likes or, you know, something, or, you know, million comments on Facebook about how great we're doing. I'm not talking about that, but I'm thinking about getting a genuine connection with other people that helps us gain confidence. Some people may be super confident in life. I've never actually met anybody who's that super confident. Maybe you have. I'd be fascinated to know if anybody has. But I think all of us to some degree have levels where we are not so confident. And when I say support, I'm not speaking here about things like telling a child that what they drew is good or bad or something terrible like that. I'm actually talking about having a genuine connection with people where they actually say, oh, wow, that's so interesting. I'm fascinated about what you did. How are you coming along there? How's that going? They have a genuine support for you. They have a genuine interest in you. You make a connection. It helps you to move forward and it boosts confidence. And that's the kind of thing I'm trying to get over in my feelings about why you may be much more confident. You may be a professional artist or have a background in art. And the person that you're speaking to is completely new. Actually saying something to them like that, that is really great, is helpful. But saying, oh, I'm really interested in what you're doing, and offering advice and support, it can make a big difference to people. So it's kind of a balance between this thing about, we're all warned about, not basing our entire existence on the fact of, how many times the little heart button icon pops up. And that is not what we're saying here, but actually caring enough to support people is really the issue. I think that we can do that. We can all do that for all of our peers in the nature journaling world. And it's, it's nice that we care. It brings us together. It helps us to connect. It also helps people confidence to be boosted a little bit, which I don't think is any bad thing. So, as I've said, the main issue that people contact me about is, I'd love to start, but I can't. They put up a barrier. And of course, drawing is a major issue in that. It can be really intimidating when you start off and you feel you don't measure up. We go online, we see all these fantastic pieces of art that people have done, and we've just started. Or sometimes we've had a blip and then we see these fantastic pieces of art and we're thinking, oh, I'll never be able to achieve that. There's no point even trying. And it takes a lot of courage for people to actually share. And I know from talking to people that sometimes, for every one person that says, here, I was really brave, and I posted this in the Facebook group, there's probably 10 more people that are lurking and going, yeah, I'll never do that. I'll never do that. Which is very sad. But it's, again, I think it's just a part of human nature. And there are these wonderful initiatives that we have, like Fearless Friday, where we say, no, it doesn't matter. Come on, just go out there, go for it. But that's quite hard for a lot of people. And this, if we're on social media, which most of us obviously are, there is this desire, I think, that we want to share, because we've found this wonderful thing we want to do. We want to share our connection with nature and what we found. And we saw that butterfly, or this has come out in our garden, or, we had an encounter with a deer on the road, whatever it is. But we don't want to do that because we have to draw and write about it and then share it with somebody else. And that's frightening. If you keep a journal, it's just for you. That issue's gone. You don't have to worry about it because it's just you. But most of us here are probably going to be here because we have some kind of social media presence, and we want some kind of connection. So this fear that what will other people think? It does matter to us and our self-esteem. It shouldn't matter to us at all, but it does, because, as Bethan said, we're human beings. It's hard being a human being. So if you're here, you know this already. Anybody can draw who can write their name. We know this, don't we? And what we forget is, for many people around us, that drawing is, in particular, is still a magical talent. It's only available to the select few. We live in this bubble. we go online and we go into our groups and we're all interested in the same things. But probably 98% of the people that you actually know in your life, unless you come from a very artistic family, they probably don't actually do anything which is connected to creativity in the sense of drawing or writing or painting. And many of us were kind of brought up thinking artists are, well, they are born, not made. When I was young, the only artist that I knew was my best friend's father, who was an art teacher and a very talented artist. And she was also really talented. And I just thought, it's a magic gene, you know. I didn't know anything about drawing. I just thought, oh, well, my friend Sarah she's inherited her father's magical gene. You know, it's only for the people who can actually do it, that they're the only ones, the people that have got this magic power. And there are so many people out there now in the world that just, you know, they don't come across art. They're not online like we are. They're not looking at all these wonderful things. And I think that this concept is often something that really affects people when they're starting out. Something else that comes up quite often is the belief that you can't do something, you can't create art, and you can't keep a journal. It can be compounded by something that happens in childhood. And I've met a lot of people who have said to me, I want to do this, but I can't. I want to particularly mention this instance of a lady that I was teaching a textiles class with. She had the most wonderful eye for colour I've ever come across. She was just incredible. And she said, "Oh, I'd love to come and come to your next journal." She said, I can't do that. I said, "Well, why ever not?" She said, "Well, I can't draw." So I gave her the chat, about everybody else. She said, "Well, I can't do it." She said. I said, "Well, why not?" Well, when she was 9, she was at school and they were asked to draw a picture of their summer holidays, and she'd been taken to the seaside. And like most children, she drew or painted yellow sand and blue sea and different blue for the sky. And she said, the teacher came along and said to me, "Oh, that's terrible." So 9-year-old child, and we're talking some time ago, she wasn't a young lady, but she said her 9-year-old self basically crumpled. And that had stayed with her. And she was a lady now coming up to her 60s, who had kept that with her the whole of her life. And this is the trouble, I think, very often, that someone says something to you and it becomes your inherent belief. Now, I don't know whether you've ever experienced this in your life or you know somebody that has, but I think chance personal remarks can often also have a huge effect on our confidence. So something that's made off the cuff can be really, really, it go very, very deeply inside you. So it's a hard nut to crack. I would really, really love if you felt that some of you could share your barriers. Again, if you just want to write them down privately, but actually think about what are those things that have affected me in my life? Or if you have been fortunate enough not to have any barriers and you are a very confident person, maybe think about people that you know have come across who might have said to you, "Oh, I love your nature journal, but I can't draw." Because what I really want to do getting into the chat is and thinking about these issues is actually to put this out there so that if somebody comes along and looks at this recording and just sort of says, "Oh, that's really interesting, that's I felt like that, but that person wrote that," it's going to help. And this is really what I kind of like I want the session to be. So I wonder if you would like to have a little think about that for me. And just write down, if you feel you can share, that's fantastic. We would love to hear that. What are your barriers? What have they been? What has stopped you doing things?
Jules, this is such an interesting and important point, that what we say to others, they carry with them. And so it's a really good reminder to be very mindful about what we say to others, because as Robin said, her husband was her biggest champion, and that made her feel really like gold. But then someone else can have a throwaway comment, or a teacher or someone, and that can affect someone for the rest of their lives. So it's a really wonderful thing to talk about and bring up, that we need to be very mindful and gentle with what we say to other people.
Absolutely, and thank you. Thank you so much for sharing. I'm just trying to note everybody's comments. It's really sad, isn't it? And I know from personal experience that I was told when I was about the same age as the lady that I mentioned, by a very good teacher who I really, really liked, that put on my end of term report card that although I was very academic, I was not good at craft or games. Games I didn't care about, but craft, they lumped art in that. And it was basically, we were making space stations out of washing up bottles, which was, but to me, I thought, oh, I'm no good. And I think it's I think Rebecca just I noticed her comment about her grandfather holding on to that for his life, and it really is, yeah, it really is important. We often just don't realize, and particularly when an authority figure, you know, like a teacher or somebody that we look up to, they didn't actually mean that, but you know, we, particularly when we're children, we can take that very, very deeply. And
this comment from Susanna is really important as well, that sometimes it's hard to engage with art if there's turmoil in life, and that might be a place that we could find solace, but for some people it's really hard to engage with that, and you have to be at peace to go to that place.
Absolutely, that's just great. And Robin, that's such, thank you so much for sharing that beautiful comment with us. And I'm so glad that you've stumbled in here, and I'm so glad that you found us. We're delighted to have you here. And Sally, that's a great point about, yeah, when people aren't interested, that can really sway your confidence when you want to talk about it, and your friends and family go, I have no idea what you're talking about. You know, so you have somewhere to come and connect with, and that can really make you feel like, yay, yeah, I can do this. That's just great. Thank you. I'm really grateful that you are, you know, you're finding it able to share. And yeah, Susanna, that's just, I am so in tune with you, exactly the same, but like something happens and I'm like, I'm off. And the wonderful thing that I found about being in this community is that now I've made so many friends and connections with these lovely people that it helps me so much more to get back in again than it used to. And I think that's one of the brilliant things about our community. And, oh, Annette. Oh, that's so sad that you don't sing. You should sing. You should definitely go for it. Absolutely go for it. I never let anybody tell you that you can't do it. Yeah, Karen, absolutely. Yeah, everyday life. It you know, just sometimes doing the everyday housework, chores, going to work, you know, you've had enough, and it can like wipe you out of any motivation that you have. Rachel. Ah, that is fantastic, Rachel. Well done. Yeah, and it's really hard. I also wasn't encouraged by art teachers. I'm completely with you there. Fantastic. So good that you've actually found your confidence, and you're now creating again. It's just great. Oh, I really appreciate you all sharing that. It's just fantastic. And isn't it nice to know that we're not alone? Isn't it great to sort of feel like, yeah, because when you do feel unconfident, you often do feel like, well, there's only me. And then you don't actually want to say to people, I don't feel very confident, you know, because it's a hard thing to say. It's a hard thing to say. So let's think a little bit more about this. Looking at the bottom of our fear, if you look at lots of different journals, we'll see all these wonderful examples on the website of all these, incredible artists. And as I've said, lacking confidence is perfectly normal. And it affects so many people, including professional artists. We make assumptions, don't we, all the time? We look at somebody's work online, and we make actually what's a judgment about it. I know we're not supposed to be judgmental, but as human beings, we see something and we make a judgment, whether we like it or we don't like it, or we, whatever it is. We can't help it. It's intrinsically human. Whereas we'll look at two images, person A is in person B's, and we'll go, yeah, I like person A's, I'm not so keen on person B's, or vice versa. We can't help it. We try not to, we say we're not, but it's just something basically that we do. And basically when we make these assumptions, but that's okay. But what people are doing when they're putting this stuff out there, and when we draw and we write on our pages, we are sharing a little piece of ourselves. That's the thing, isn't it? Whether your nature journal is highly scientific, with lots of diagrams and lots and loads of observations, or whether it's something which is more aesthetic when you want to write poetry and do a beautiful image of flowers. It doesn't matter what it is. It's personal. It's our personal response to our connection with nature. Even just a page of facts, we wrote them down. Maybe people think my handwriting is bad. We're sharing that little bit of ourselves, and usually because we're here and we're on social media, we want to do that. We want to share, and that's the scary thing. It's not just about creating a pretty picture and then having it. It's just like I put that there. Do you think people think that looks scrappy? Do you think people will make the judgment about me that I actually always make about every single thing that I look at online? Of course, and that is what we feel. It's a personal interpretation. We've got to recognize that and give ourselves the hugest pat on the back when we put something out there and say, hey, here's a bit of me. Hello, everybody. I'm being so brave. And I don't think we recognize that enough. We talk about a beautiful image, it not being, but think about it, just writing, some diagrams and notes. It's the same thing. It's us. We did that. It's personal. And there's, again, as I said, 98% of the people that probably have absolutely no connection to doing anything creative. They have different leisure activities. They have different jobs. They have different hobbies that they do. In my experience, the majority of them will say, wow, anything that you do is absolutely wonderful, because it's totally out of their sphere of comprehension. But we do forget that when we are, head down thinking, shall I post this on the Facebook page, or I'm not too sure about it. But people will think it's, that they will respect and they will admire what you're doing. And I think that's something that I've noticed over the years, that I keep talking about this bubble, but I think it's really important not to forget that we are a tiny little thing. And most people will just go, wow, you drew that. You drew that rose. That's amazing. I can't draw. And that will be the response that we get. And everybody starts somewhere. We know that. We all know. Look at Van Gogh's early drawings. Everybody always says that. Look at Van Gogh's early drawings. Yeah, and they weren't great. He didn't do so badly. I mean, obviously not his likeable chap, but we just have to remember that. And so many people around you are never going to experience the magic and the wonder and the happiness that you will get from making that page and sharing that bit of yourself, and boosting your confidence. People say, wow, that's great. Oh, I'm really interested in what you're doing. And oh, look, you've made a connection. Let's think about breaking down those barriers that we put up for ourselves, or how we might be able to. I would love to hear how you broke a barrier. How did you break something down? How did you make that first move to say, okay, I really want to do this. I'm going to do it. Okay, just a couple of minutes just to think about that. just want to say thank you so much for these comments. Josephine, yeah, I am my own negativity. I'm with you so much. I'm sure everyone has been positive about your drawings. It's just, that summed it up really, really well. I think for a lot of us who aren't confident. And Todd, yeah. So you didn't do it, and that's amazing. I know Todd actually is someone who's become has a fine art degree and is now a tutor. That's a wonderful example, isn't it, to us all? And Annette, yeah. Thank you, Annette, for sharing that. It is, yeah. You know, everything new you start, but you make yourself post. Good for you. That is super confidence. That is wonderful. You are just so on the way there. Yes, ramping up. Yes, letting go of the inner critic and enjoying the process. So important. Rachel, I love that. Your pages are not tidy or beautiful, but I mean, because we know that doesn't matter. It's whatever you're doing is right for you, but that's a very brave thing to say. People are scared of not making it look pretty or beautiful, and it's a hard nut to crack, but you're obviously cracking it. You must ask your inner critic for arguments, and maybe you will find him. Okay, Karen, I've never heard that before. Michelle. Drew in it. Oh, that's fantastic. Drawing in your science educators class. Oh, that's so wonderful that this week has given you the confidence. That's fantastic. And Rebecca. Yes, well done, Rebecca. It is like it's like you take you're on the path, and then you take a right hand turn, and then you come back again, and then you go to the left, and sometimes if you find you've walked in a circle and you've come back to where you are. But yeah, that's really a great analogy of how the journey kind of takes us. Rachel, professional procrastinator. I like that. Can I steal that? Because I think I would love to be a professional procrastinator. I think I could get a little club. And Sally. Oh wow. Driving to Scotland by yourself. Wow, fantastic. That is quite a trip. Wow, amazing. Okay. Thank you so much, everybody. It's it's just great. I'm so impressed that you feel that you can actually share here. It's wonderful. Okay. So we've talked about connecting with people, and obviously we love connecting with people. International Nature Journaling Week, anybody? Because that's why we're here. And we are so lucky to have this kind and generous and welcoming community where people are just fantastic. And we welcome everybody from beginners to people who've been drawing and writing for all their lives. And I think that's just it's an amazing community that we have. And then, we're very lucky to have it and lucky to be part of it. So let's talk a little bit more generally now about confidence and connection, because that can help you greatly when you are sketching outdoors for the first time, because that can be, as I said, quite intimidating and hard to get used to, but the benefits are just so enormous. So if you are somebody that hasn't taken that step yet, there are lots of things that you can do, like finding if there's a local nature journaling group. Hopefully there may be one, or you could always start one. Lots and lots of help and advice about that here, or maybe a local naturalist group. I'm going to say naturalist because the other day I was reading something, and apparently this lady had said that she was going to go to the naturalist group, and her grandson had said, "But Granny, you can't take your clothes off." Which I thought was just absolutely lovely. So yes, a local naturalist group where you can attend in person, or maybe an urban sketchers group, because although we tend to think about as being in cities, it isn't. It just is sketching on location wherever you are, and you probably find joining something like that. I always nature journal and urban sketching outings, always. And I found that quite a few of my fellow sketchers loved nature drawing as well, and then that I found more people to go out with and go sketching with, and that's great fun. Check out Facebook groups to see if anybody locally that you can connect with. I met my first outdoor sketching friend through a Facebook group, and I've gone on to find many more lovely folk who I could draw with that way, both in the UK and actually overseas when I've been on holiday, which is just fantastic. So we do have this wonderful ability, to connect with people that way. And journaling outside, as I said, there can be all sorts of pitfalls, but I think the most important thing to think about is make sure that you are safe and comfortable wherever you happen to be. You might just want to go into your garden or into a friend's garden or family member, and that's absolutely fine. And of course, we encourage everybody to look at the nature which is outside their back door. That's absolutely imperative. But sometimes you might want to go a little bit further afield. Maybe there's somewhere you've always wanted to go, or there's some particular thing that I'd love to go and journal that. And I think the important thing is today is just, obviously we're all aware of dangers and pitfalls, but it could be something like, you trip over a tree branch and you've broken your ankle and your phone's in your bag over there. So it's just thinking about not just setting up your kit and saying, how am I going to manage this, but just really thinking about what might happen, doing a little checklist and just making sure you're comfy, telling somebody where you're going if you are going on your own, like me, who tramps off into the wilds of the Bristol area. We do have some wildish areas, but just being sure that you feel comfortable and safe. That's so important. And if you can, find somebody to go with, because again, that connection is so great in helping you to build your confidence up. I just wanted to touch on that because I think it's, we're often saying, get outside. And for some of us in some countries, I think maybe it's easier. A lot of people in some of our larger countries have a lot more perhaps space where they live. They may have huge yards or gardens, whereas in the UK here, perhaps less of us have enormous gardens or outdoor spaces that we can share. Some of us don't have them at all, so we need to go perhaps to a local park, and even that can be, quite intimidating going on your own. So I would always encourage people 100% to try and get out and do that, but being sure first of all that you've thought about, I want to journal, so I want to feel safe and confident and happy, and I've thought about everything that I need to think about. But do try. I really hope that if you haven't done it, that you know that you can do that, because it's just nothing like it. And something else which is kind of like totally off tangent, but it is important. When you go out, the thing that we're often wanting to do is field sketch. Sketching animals and birds from life in front of you is fantastic. It is, in my opinion, it is the hardest thing in the world to do. It is so difficult to do, and it's incredibly intimidating. Every time I pick up my pen, I'm intimidated. But it's just such a marvelous thing to do, to be able to capture that feeling of movement and immediacy. Is just great. So again, in my classes, we always do a little field sketching section, and we always try and do some live creatures with that. Of course, you can use your pets at home, but a good tip, which I always like to tell people, if you're a little bit hesitant and you'd really like to go out, maybe to a local community farm or a wildlife centre, or whatever you happen to have nearby, first of all, think about going online. We have a fantastic blog post that my friend Leanne Tancock wrote last year about field sketching in your pajamas. And Leanne is the queen of live webcams. She was someone who regularly went out and sketched before the pandemic. and then was unable to do so. And so she discovered the world of webcams, and literally anytime, day or night, you want to practice drawing animals or birds, there is a wealth of information there. You can practice your heart's content. So when you do go out, you've just got all this wonderful knowledge already, and that just really, really helps you. So I do encourage you to pop back and have a look at that. In terms of building confidence, different kind of confidence, it's a really great thing to do. It's helped me enormously, and it's not cheating. It's not cheating at all, and because you're learning about the creatures all the time. So that's just a little aside there.
Jules, I'd love to read a comment from Rebecca, because I think it's a really important point. And Rebecca says, I think an important thing to realize is that there's always the next step, another skill, another level. So there's always this fear and vulnerability of trying something new or not being good enough. It's important to learn to be okay with feeling uncomfortable by stretching outside our comfort zones in a healthy way. So this idea that if we are learning, we're always going to feel the same way. It's always going to feel weird and uncomfortable. And I think that getting used to that feeling is really important. I love that comment. Thank you, Rebecca.
Oh, that's absolutely fantastic. I'm sorry, I'm too busy talking, and I have to go back and then thank you very much. They're just so amazing. But yeah, I think that summed it up perfectly. That it's perfectly, it's okay. It's everything is okay. There are no nature journal police. Yeah, that's why there aren't any. There is no proper way to do things. There is nothing apart from what you want to do. Sometimes it is hard to tell ourselves that is actually the case, because we have all these other things coming in. I think, oh yes, this, that, but actually Becca is perfectly right. It is fine. We are who we are. We do what we do, and that is all that matters. And it's beating away all these other barriers and things coming down, telling us that we can't, we shouldn't, we couldn't, all these things. We get it all through our lives every day, and it's bound to kind of sometimes affect us in our nature journaling. So yeah, that's a fantastic comment. Thank you so much, Rebecca. I love that. I really love that.
One thing that was interesting yesterday, and you say there's no nature journaling police, and I had a little humble moment yesterday, because we were talking with Jean McKay, and I always say in my nature journal workshops, nature journaling is not about pretty pictures. And in fact, I even said that in one of the videos. And then we did Jean's workshop, and Jean has the most amazingly beautiful pictures. And I had to say, and I think this is really important to say, hang on a minute, it can be about pretty pictures. If that makes you feel connected. And so instead of saying this, it's not about pretty pictures, I need to remind myself to say, it's not only about pretty pictures, or it doesn't have to be about pretty pictures, because that for Jean and for many people, making something beautiful is their way of connecting. And that's completely valid and completely fine and perfect as well. So there's no, I want to write that down. There's no nature journal police, and because that's perfect. You're absolutely right.
Thank you. Yeah, it's kind of early on, because there's always that feeling that we need to follow what somebody else does, and we start doing that because we see, oh, I like that style. I like what that person does. And of course, you tend to follow that. And I think for a lot of us, who maybe don't go for the more quick fire approach, a lot of people do want to have something in their journals that looks realistic, because it makes them feel better. And again, but there's nothing wrong with that. And it's really, I get quite worried when people think there is a proper way. And I'm really glad that you made that point. I mean, Jean's work is just so amazing, but there isn't it's like one size fits nobody. We're all unique, we're all different, we're all going to do this in a different way, we're all going to have our different styles and approaches. And we talk about that all the time, but actually mentally thinking, yes, it's okay for me to work like this, is sometimes quite difficult, especially when you see something as amazing as Jean's artistry, which is mind-blowing. But isn't that the great thing about it? It's and that's the thing with confidence, becoming confident with ourselves, supporting each other, actually thinking about these issues is, to me, it's just been fantastic actually seeing what people have come up with, and what they've really thought hard about what's behind it, because that's it. This is personal. That's the most, nature journey is, it's personal, it's from deep within us. And I just think it's just so important, because it's been such a huge thing in my life that has changed my life completely, and I really want other people to experience what I've experienced through the joy of sharing and taking those steps and being brave. So it's just fantastic. Thank you so much for all these wonderful comments and thoughts that you shared. I just think it's amazing. You're incredible, and I'm so happy to also get the feeling of how much, obviously from these comments, it has really helped people and has helped their confidence. So I think really we've kind of covered a few things. I'm sure there's many more things that we could cover, and I hope you'll kind of think a little bit more deeply. Maybe this has raised issues with you that you hadn't thought about before, or that you can discuss with other people. And I'm just quickly going through the comments again, just as I haven't quite managed to catch it up with all of them. Oh, Annette, I totally understand what you're saying about never showing your work. I didn't show anything apart to my mum until I was like in my 30s. Completely understand where you're coming from with that. But it'll be fine. It'll be fine, and people will think you're fabulous. So please, don't feel, I mean, it's entirely up to you, but don't feel that you won't get the support if you want to share, because you're obviously somebody who's very passionately committed to nature journaling, and that's wonderful. And oh, Susanna, yes, Susanna's friend is an artist, and so she kept nature journal, she'd be constantly tearing the pages out. I love that. I have a friend who's an artist in Scotland, a bird artist in Scotland, who never goes outside. She takes photographs and then she works in the studio, and she can't understand nature journaling at all. And she's won loads of competitions, and she's actively just, she thinks it's amazing. So you see, we have these perceptions, don't we, about what other people think. So finally, I'd like to say to you that confidence and your why, two important things. We started off thinking, why do we want a nature journal? What is our why? What is our reason for doing this? And if you are having difficulties at any time, whether it's something that's made you stall in life, and you don't feel you can't get your journal out, or something's happened and you just can't get the motivation, something that I hope might help you is to go back to your journal and look at your why. I know that's helped me when I've looked back. Why did I want to do this? I wanted to do this because I thought I couldn't do it. I saw these wonderful things and I was never going to be able to do that. But I did. And that has helped me to regain my confidence going and thinking back. And I hope that that will help you, or that you can pass that information on to someone that you have met through journaling, if they're having difficulties and struggle with their situation. Because we really don't want to lose this wonderful ability that we have, and this wonderful opportunity that we have to nature journal and connect with nature and connect with each other. And it is such a fantastic thing that, I mean, really, I think it should be on prescription. You should be able to share it with the whole world. So I hope that you will go forward and build positive relationships Give yourselves challenges and meet those challenges, and be kind to yourselves. And please reach out to the community if you need to do, because there is so much help and support here. So thank you very much. I really appreciate you all listening to me whicher on about my favourite subject this morning, and I hope that it's been a little bit of help to some of you. Thank you very much.
Jules, this has been absolutely moving and sensitive and beautiful. I'm so grateful for you for bringing all these points to us and things to reflect on. And I wonder if we can invite anyone who wants to say something to use the raise hand and come along and say whatever you want to say. Rebecca, I can see your beautiful.
Oh yeah, that's wonderful. Oh,
hi, I'm Rebecca, and this is Reese. He loves coming to Zoom. He's my teaching assistant, as Ivea called him. Yeah, so I just have a couple thoughts I'd love to add. I think going back to what you're saying is that like you don't have to share your nature journal. Super important point. Like whatever you put in here, this is for you. If you want to share part of it, you can, but it's up to you what part to share and in what context to share. You know, like in Jean's workshop, yeah, and the values she was talking about, there's such a spectrum of types of nature journaling. You can be like super personal, like you can write about the stuff that's going on in your life, that's, you know, those things that are upsetting and that you're either bringing to nature, like either just like you're bringing that with you, and that's also going to affect like how you see the world, or being in nature can help you to process the things that are going on in your life or that are going on in the world. So I think like that's not off limits in a nature journal, and but like you might want to share that with everybody on the same way that you're like, oh, look at this plant that I observed and I noticed some cool things about it, you know. So it's totally up to you. But I do think it's really important to be able to share, because that's such an important part of the process of nature journaling. You know, like John Muir Laws says that your nature journal page isn't really finished until you've gotten some feedback. And it doesn't necessarily need to be feedback about like improving or, you know, like, oh, here's what you could do better kind of feedback. It's just the process of having somebody else look at it and to hear your story, and for you to feel heard and seen with your experience. It doesn't really fully process and become a part of you until you've processed it in some way. And so doing the nature journal itself is a way of processing your experience, but it becomes even so much more powerful if you then can share it with somebody else. So and that doesn't necessarily have to be on social media. I don't usually post my journals on social media. I don't really like how it makes me feel. It's just too big, too many people. It can be hard to really find a connection. But if you can find somebody either in your real life or, you know, internet friends, you know, who you meet on Zoom, or, you know, if it is social media that you feel good, you know, to share it and to get some real feedback, you know, like find somebody who is willing to listen to your story, listen deeply, and, you know, ask you questions about just, you know, what were they curious about your experience, you know, follow-up questions. And then you can do that for each other. And then the other person, if they're not into nature, they might just naturally start sharing their stories with you too, because they know that you're somebody who will listen to them. And I think, to me, that is like one of the core reasons to nature journal. And Karen, you're here. You already know a lot about this because we talked about this in my class. But yeah, what was I saying? Yeah, to me, I almost start to think of the nature journal as just a way to do that and to process your story. Like if you don't have somebody to share your story with. Like, the journal itself doesn't actually have to be a part of this process. It's just going into nature, having an experience, and then coming back and sharing it with somebody. But the nature journal is a way to really enhance that process, is the way I've come to conceptualize it. And also, I just want to share one more thing. We were talking about capturing animals in motion can be really difficult. So honestly, want to say is like capturing like super realistic animals in motion, not really possible. Maybe for some people who are very, very skilled, but not for most of us. And that's okay. So if you want to sketch animals from, from life, you don't have to expect them to be at the same level or same type of sketch as other, if you did where I have like a photograph and you're going to spend 3 hours making, a painting of something, which is like both are great. But I don't consider myself an art teacher because I'm not. I come from a scientific background where like my entryway to what I now call nature journaling is more of like keeping a field notebook and field sketches and like a birding notebook, keeping lists of things and collecting data and making some sketches and things like that. But so yeah, so it's okay to have sketches that are just partially complete or not very good, but again, it's all about, does it help you to pay more attention? So I would just love to share, yeah, I already nature journaled a little bit this morning. There were some ducks that came into our swimming pool in the backyard. So I just sketched them, and then as I've been listening to this talk, I've just been adding in some color. So here's what I did this morning. Hey, excuse me, Reese. Gotta get my cat out of the way. Hang on, this is hard to get the right angle on the camera because it's like mirrored. Okay, it's like using a microscope, Okay. Hang on, I think I'm just gonna flip it back because this is too confusing. Just pardon me for a second. No, wait, it was okay. Yeah, no, it wasn't mirrored, and now it is properly mirrored. Okay, here we go. Sorry about that. Oh no, this is from the other day. There was a baby American chestnut somebody had in a pot, which is amazing. That's a whole other story. I won't get into it right now. But yeah, so here are the ducks in the pool, and I just sketched the shapes of them, and I was like, oh, they're flying away now, bye. There's one, the female was sitting on the edge for a few minutes, and there's preening himself, and there's another one swimming toward me, so I just kind of captured that angle. So then I was drawing the shape of the head, trying to look at the negative space. So yeah, they don't have to be, the point is they don't have to be like a beautiful piece of art or as what you might think of it should be. It can just be some like super simple sketches like that, and then I put in some words with like what happened and all the questions I had about it. So yeah, I've been talking for a while, so I will stop now, but I just wanted to share those thoughts.
Thank you, Rebecca. I think it's a really good reminder that no, things don't have to be perfect at all. There's great nature journaling pages. I just made that particular point because again, it's something that comes up that again for those people that really are seeking to do something different and they feel that their approach perhaps is a little bit different. That's just a really good way, and that particular blog post is just, I put it in the comments, Robin, Leanne's details. So if you just hunt back next year, you'll find it. But it's again, it doesn't matter because both ways are right because there is no wrong way. I mean, that's fantastic, really, isn't it? There's no wrong way to do this. I mean, it's just releasing that fact that there really isn't. No matter what anybody says, And there's not very many things that we can say that about today. So I think we're quite lucky in that respect. But thank you very much. And I'm really impressed that you were nature journaling this morning as well. That's fantastic. Does anybody else want to share anything? Oh yeah, Michelle.
Yes, hi from Boston, early in the morning.
Wow.
I checked my email and I was like, oh, I gotta hear this live. So much more fun. So something I'm thinking through, and I did actually take my nature journal into Harvard's Arboretum yesterday and sit and think through why I'm nature journaling, and that was just terrific. One thing I'm thinking about is I am trying to get published, writing nonfiction, and I'm trying to figure out where I fit in that angle. And I've spent the last 5 months doing an essay class with a writer in England, writing a 4,000-word essay every 2 weeks. And I'm so thankful to be done with that and back to nature journaling. But I'm now trying to figure out how the two fit together. And I really appreciate the sort of do your thing message, because I don't really fit totally in with that group, because I was also trying to do visual things. But, you know, we're not talking about writing as much, even though writing is a component of nature journaling. And I just love, I have the freedom to go now think about that. And it doesn't, like, there may not be anyone doing what I'll end up doing. And that's kind of fun. It's actually an adventure. It's not a problem. So I'm glad to know it's not a problem.
That's fantastic, Michelle. That's so interesting as well. And yeah, I mean, I think you're probably coming from a totally unique perspective, and that's wonderful. So yeah, and very good luck with that. It sounds like, keep us posted about how that's going, please. Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Todd, did you have your hand up too?
Hello, yes. All I wanted to say really was I find the accumulation of pages in a sketchbook really help with confidence. And, you know, whilst you say there's no, you know, no right, no wrong, we've all got our own aesthetic. And so inevitably there will be elements that you think, oh, I don't like that, that's rubbish. I'll never tear anything out. And I find it's the accumulation, and you find the pages that you thought, I don't like this, what was I thinking, or what was I doing, or, you know, the ink splotched everywhere, which I don't mind, I like messy pages, but I find that they then start to sit more comfortably amongst everything else. And I think somebody already made a comment, I can't remember who, that looking back at previous pages sometimes can be the incentive to get going again. And if you've had a stop, it is hard to get that ball rolling again. And so the more you do it, just 5 minutes, 10 minutes, the more you do it, the more your confidence builds and the more you want to do it. That's all I wanted to say.
I think that's perfect. Thank you so much, Todd. You're absolutely right. And it's just kind of getting over that hurdle, isn't it, of going, yeah, I'm going to do it again. So yeah, just building things up is really important. And it's funny because yesterday I was trying desperately to do, I thought I haven't done any journaling this week because I've been too busy, you know, following Instagram and the Facebook page and everything. And I said, I put this tree on my page and it was in totally the wrong place. And I spent half an hour thinking, can I cover this up with a piece of card? Can I do that? I did that. I thought, oh, I don't care. I just left it there because it doesn't really, you know, it doesn't really matter. I mean, my aesthetic was you know, was spoiled, I thought, but so, you know, I enjoyed drawing the tree. So yeah, but so thank you very much for that. Anybody else got any final comments before we all go off and have a cup of tea or or dinner or whatever? I'm not sure what stage of the day some of us are at. I think that's everything. Well, thank you much. I'll hand you back to Bethan.
Jules, that was amazing. Thank you so much. I think that you've just brought so much to our minds and hearts today, and you have given us things to think about. And I think reflecting deeply on these things is very important and very moving. And so thank you so much. It's been really, really meaningful and lovely. Thank you, Jules.
Thank you everybody for devoting your Sunday morning to this. Those of you who got up really early as well, I really appreciate it. So thank you, and have a great rest of the week.
Thank you so much for everyone for coming. And our very next session is John Muir-Laws, and he's going to talk about confidence as well. And as is the case when different speakers speak on the same topic, they come from different angles. So it'll be really interesting to see his talk. It's going to be 4 p.m. Pacific. So you can figure that out in your own time zone. For me, it's going to be tomorrow at 9 a.m. So I look forward to seeing you all there, and keep an eye on the website and your emails, because there's an email each day with what's coming up. We've got 2 more days for me, maybe 3 for you. But thank you so much for being here. And Jules, again, thank you so much. That was really, really moving.
Thank you, Beth, and thank you, everybody. Have a lovely day or evening or whatever you're doing. We'll see you soon.
Bye, everyone. Take good care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.